Hello and welcome to another inspiring episode of BB Uncovered with me, Oluwatosin Ojebisi, on the Movement Studio. On today's episode, I sit with a foremost experiential marketing professional. She's also one of the women who's changed the face of experiential marketing in Nigeria. She's not only the first female president of the Experiential Marketing Association of Nigeria, she's also the CEO of Asta Integrated Marketing Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, Tolulope Medebem. Welcome to you, Ma.
Thank you very much.
It's a delight to have you here with
It's a delight
us.
for me to be here for Shobi.
Yeah. Okay. So for the sake of this podcast, we'll refer to him as BB. Yeah. So let's dive into the meat of what we are here for. BB, how did you first meet him? Tell us the story. We want to know.
Okay, so earlier we were talking about children, Abby.
Yes.
So I had traveled, I had my baby, and she's my last one now. And I was thinking to myself, look, do I really want to work? Do I want to be a mioga? That kind of thing. And I got a call from one of my friends who says, oh, and I think it is his brother-in-law, Steve Onwuka, who called me and said, something, this is happening and all of that. I think you should go in for an interview. Send your CV. I was like, I'm not in the country. I don't think I'm interested. I said, send your CV. So I sent my CV, and apparently my CV went out to them. Excuse me. So my CV went out to them, and I got a call to come in for a meeting. So I went in for a meeting. And prior to that, my levels, so to say, I mean, when I got into experiential marketing in 2000, I was a general manager also. The next thing I went into was also another highfalutin position and all of that. So I'm standing in front of Shobi, Bibi.
Yes.
We had all the talks and everything. And I think he looks at my CV again and is like, so where do we want to start with you? That at this point, I looked at this and I'm like, I think after having spoken to him, at this point, I was speaking to him like I went for an interview. So like you said, how did I meet him? So that was what it was. But this person, he had been my father's friend for like forever.
Wow.
You understand? Because even when I was coming, I was thinking, I said, how come I got to work with Bibi from anywhere else but from my father? Because if anybody had told me I would have worked with him, it would have been because my father introduced me to him. But it wasn't that. And I don't even think that I ever met him with my father, even if they didn't meet in this period. So we spoke, and I said to him, at this point, I haven't spoken to him. We had laughed, we had chatted. He had called me different names, not abusive, but the final name he called me, which stuck, was now Iyaoibo.
Oh,
and that's what he called me almost like forever.
Wow.
And there were two of us in the Troika group, myself and Funken Wako. That was what he called us, Iyaoibo. And we used to call ourselves Association of Yahwehbos and all of that. So that was the start for me. And then at it, he said, okay, so where do you want to? I said, okay, you know what? I think I want to work with you. I said, you know what? Anything, any position you want me to work in. He said, any position. I said, yes. And that was my start with Bibi. And then I started with, so today again, I was looking at it, I think because I was coming here. So they had that experiential company then that was called Sale. And then the sale now kind of like evolved and became FK Events. Then he evolved again and became FKG2. And then he evolved again and became FK back. Because at this point, the G2 part of it, which was like an affiliation, left. And then I think about this period, I left. And then they evolved back to as a guy. I don't know what it is now, but yeah, that's how we met.
So much transformation. That's quite interesting. So considering how you met him, what do you admire most about his personality?
So, Bibi. So let me say what's not to love about his personality.
Tell us.
Let me tell you one thing that stuck for me. And I think over and over through the years, it was something that regardless, I think I still hold on to that, even when I hire. And I think it was, I can't remember what we were doing. I think it was Ultimate Search for Golda. And we were brainstorming. And this man in those days is one person that any new brief or any new business that came, he will be there, especially when we're brainstorming for our pitches and all of that. He will appear. You know, the kind of thing that when you say someone sit in for the client and then you appraise us like without any, I'm not interested in this. This is not my company. I don't even know you guys. And because we were part of the Troika group, we used to do the experiential part of Insights thing. So we'll all sit down in the boardroom and do like a presentation to him as our client. And I remember in the brainstorming session of this particular activity, I honestly can't remember what came up, but what I remember is him saying that does it really matter whether or not I went to school when I have surrounded myself with the best of the best? At the end of the day, who is the best? Him now. Why? Because you are all doing everything to ensure. So whether or not and I think that was the first time I ever heard anything about, you're working with someone that you admire, that is intelligent and that has everything in terms of where you are, and you're looking up to him. Now, talking about him, I can also say that he's also been because if you asked me before that who was my mentor, I would say first and foremost my father before I talked about somebody else. But now I think thinking about him, I think he was also a mentor for me, because remember I said that particular incident or sentence that he made actually is also been it's also been a basis for a lot of the things that I do, especially even hiring. Because that day, for some reason, I see us, but I don't think that was how we were seated. I see us seated, him like this, and all of us seated around him. Like Tales by Moonlight kind of setting, or like a father and his children. But I'm not sure that was the way we were seated. But anytime I remember that sentence or statement, that's what comes to my mind, And at the end of the day, at that point, even till now, if you want to call Insight, I think that if you're talking about marketing communications industry, I mean, then it was the University of Advertising. I don't know if what it is now, because almost everyone came out of there at some point or the other. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I do.
Almost everyone with this industry had something one way or the other within the Troika group. So imagine that. Who will be the best when you surround yourself with the best of the best? And he did that. He did that. Even early days when I didn't even know that I was eyeing Insight, they were the people that the first, what's it called now, for communication, they had the cars. They were always well dressed in the suits of this world because they needed to portray an image. And it still goes back to having the best of the best around you to do what? To churn out the best. And I think that's what he's done. And when you think about BB, you're thinking excellence. You're thinking professionalism. When I talk about professionalism, when I talk about integrity, I want to know that this came from a source. And apart from, yes, like I said earlier, my father, I think this for me is a source that actually grounded this in me within the industry. So, yeah.
Well said. I mean, you mentioned the fact that he's like a mentor to you. He is a mentor.
I'm thinking.
Okay, you started off as a young lady who came into the industry, and slowly, steadily, you've grown to be the president of the Experiential Marketing Association of Nigeria. Would you say you followed his footsteps, because he was also once the president of the AAAN? So would you say he has had a role to play in you rising to become who you are today?
I would say so with all confidence, because at the end of the day, I can if I want to talk about my work experience, my longest work experience was within the Troika group. I think
How
this
many
thing
years?
that was coming to almost 8 years. This thing that I was coming to do here got me thinking. I actually I was writing something that I wanted to post on LinkedIn, and I wasn't saying all the things I wanted to say, but it got me thinking. And I'm thinking to myself that, wait, so if you're checking my CV, you'll see 2 years here, you'll see 3 years here, you'll see 1 year. I actually did 1 year with a client, and I couldn't stand it because it was too far. That was the only problem, honestly, that I had with that particular client. And I realized over time that that's me. I'm so much of a nomad. You understand? Once it's uncomfortable, it is uncomfortable. I won't, you understand? I'll move on. But I did 8 years plus within the Troika group. And think of that. And I think about myself, my trajectory in this experiential marketing. I was in experiential marketing before I came into the Troika Group.
Okay.
But then, even at that, when we were doing that, we were affiliation with another South African company. But within the Troika Group, my first stint with them, guess what? The man looks at me and says, and I just had a baby, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, he wanted to start something new. Again, he wanted the best of the best around him. And guess what we did? They shipped me to South Africa. So my baby was 4 months. And I was thinking to myself, well, my baby was very independent of me as well. So, hey, I could up and go. So I was in South Africa for 3 or 6 months. I can't remember. You get. And what was that? Here in South Africa was, I could say, was the basis, even if coming into into the Striker Group at that point was having supposedly known experiential. It was here working for 3 to 6 months in South Africa where I could say I actually earned whatever skills I know today. And it is through him, again, wanting to have the best. So I'm not hiring you because of what you think you know or what you believe you've brought to the table. I'm hiring you and I'm training you to ensure that you give the best to whatever clients we give to you. So yeah, he has done that. And today people will see you, oh, da, da, da. And it's standing on the shoulders of this kind of giants that, yes, regardless of whether or not he's been the president of AAN before, whichever way, I stood on his shoulders amongst the shoulders of other giants, but him being the tallest of them so far. And yes, today we're here, president of X-Man.
Congratulations. All right. So, still within the work setting, can you just share a fun story of working closely with BB? Something fun. I'm sure it's not all work.
There's so many. This one is even still tied to work. You know, that kind of this South Africa incident I mentioned. This one is very funny because we were traveling the same day. Maybe if we're not traveling the same day, it would not have been that. We're traveling the same day, and I saw him at the airport, and that was it. That was the end. Hey, they've left me. What's going on? I looked for him when we got down. I was like, I'm not sure I even saw himself. And then my boss, then Uncle Mark, were to have a dinner with him. I didn't know that Bibi was leaving to Nigeria, and they were leaving me. And we had dinner. We did everything. I was like, so I'll see you in the office tomorrow, sir. You know, he looked at me like, did we come here together? You know?
Okay.
And the next morning, I went into Uncle Mark's office and I was like, oh, when is Bibi coming? I need to. And Mark looked at me like, didn't you say goodbye to him yesterday? I was like, pardon? Bibi had gone. Ha. So it was that. And then we had an activity that we wanted to organize for, I think Nigerian Breeze was one of our clients then. And we had an activity that we wanted to do. And I think it was also clashing with something that we needed to do in Ijebu for him. And we were at a loss on what to do. How are we? Because we were the event group, so to say, and we're doing that for him in Ijebu. I'm trying to get the correct sequence of the story. It's been a long time. I'm trying to get because I'm laughing to myself, but I'm trying to get the correct sequence of the story before I go and lie. And I wouldn't want to lie. But working with him, honestly, there's so many instances. It was in his house as well, first of all, that I discovered these B&O, the ones that are like rocks in his house. So in his house in GRA, he has a pool and the speakers are in there somewhere, and we had to do an event there. And I was talking about how we're going to bring in the speakers. Da, 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 da. Nobody said anything. So when we're making the plans and we had to do a recce to look at it, I'm not sure if it was him or a steward, and then they were putting on the lights and the music and the speakers. And I think I was standing right by one. I actually fell down because, I was so startled when the music played, and I was like, it was by the pool, and you won't see them because I don't know if they were part of the decor but they were like rocks in the place. I think that was my first time of seeing that. I had to go and Google itself that speakers that look like rocks. That was how I even knew that it was B&O on all that, And I think the 8 years I spent with him was a culture. It was a culture for me. The 8 years I spent in that system, in that, I mean, I would, because the thing about it, one thing I've realized is we never can cut off, I won't call it work. We can't cut off things that are, and that's why I use the word culture. Because you just said it's fun and all that. But if something is right, it's not work, it's not fun.
True. Absolutely.
I don't know if you get what I'm
I
saying.
do.
If you talk about integrity is not only because it's work. Let your word be your word, regardless of whether or not. So those kind of things. So you're looking, I mean, I'm thinking now and I'm saying to he's the one person that, hey, sometimes lateness is a culture, so to say, in Nigeria. I'm not sure that, apart from you saying 1 o'clock or whatever, I'm not sure that anybody from the tracker group will come here late. You understand? Because even if I wanted to come for a meeting, I was going to be late. It's baby we are talking about here. In your mind, you're thinking to yourself, no, let me tell you, because I even came in here at 12:30. I driven around. I had to go and show my staff because I had an office here before 37 Raymond Njoko. I showed him around. I drove around and all that. We parked. We just stayed in the car. Then we walked down. I can't afford to be late. And it's
Absolutely.
you understand?
Yeah.
So those are the culture you get. When you talk about Nigerians, you talk about that they're early for visa appointments. So if we can do all of that. So for me, it's not been that because of him. You will go for meeting late. That's what? I don't know. I don't know.
Absolutely interesting. I mean, you've said a lot. You've talked about how he's, and again, it's reoccurring that a lot of guests come here and they tell us, oh, baby, it's so timely, it keeps to time, and is very principled. Yeah. But again, I'm sure he must have encountered certain challenges building, his legacy, building his company to what it is. Can you share with us, considering the fact that you also worked with him, how did he handle those challenges and setbacks?
I remember
Stories.
Remember
We're
I
here for
told you.
it.
Remember I told you now how we moved up from sale to FK to
Of course.
all of this were part of these recurring challenges, and this all was one company. This all of this were one company. This was, I mean, so our office then was number 5, 6, 8. Adekunle Fajri, I can't remember what it was. And we used to always have this regular each of the, it's a group of companies. So each of the group heads of the company, you come to defend your business, present your business to the shareholders and all of that. And I remember then at that point, we used to say to him that, we are paying all this money. So part of the ways of him, there were issues, yes, and there will be issues.
Of course.
But again, still goes back to what I'm saying about the fact that you can't if you've picked up a culture, it's not about work or anything. And what is that? This is one person that then, before it even became Troika per se, the whole group, everybody, this was someone that was mindful of the fact that, okay, you all, I own you all, so to say, right? And as much as, so at a point, we were paying rent to our landlords. And over the years, we were kind of like making it a noise in their ear and saying to themselves, shouldn't we just buy this building? And then he used to say something funny then. He says he's in the business of advertising. He's not in the business of real estate, that we should leave him alone. But I think over the years, when you have those number of companies within the same GRA, why are you wasting so much money paying? So I think over the years, with all of that, they actually integrated that into their business. Because I think at a point, they had a property where all the companies now came under. But going back to all that resolving of the businesses, so we started as sale, like I said, and there were issues with that. I don't know what the issues in that was, but this company then moved on to FK, which was, I think, First Kilimanjaro. And the First Kilimanjaro was, I think, because we were looking to have some kind of partnership with this. Remember, I went to go and do a training. We're trying to have a partnership with them. I guess that didn't work out. But within that period, again, still with him trying to, because we were not the ones doing this. This was him and his people back and doing this. in within that period, somehow they got the G2 Connect. So we got the G2, which got us the BAT account, and that was the major account from those people and a few other accounts. At some point, that account left, but the company didn't close then.
Okay.
The company didn't close. Things went down. Yes, of course, things went bad. But I can tell you for free that I don't think anybody was sacked on that
Wow.
loss. And he's one company that, I mean, when Tosi said to me that we're coming to, I said, for him, anything. I mean, like I said, I'm me, nomadic kind of thing
Yeah.
and all of that. But I know people that worked even before we came there, years on years. I know people. Sometimes I see people, and I'm scared to ask, "Are you still?" Because it's kind of like expected, regardless. So if people left within the period that G2 went, it was because they resigned,
Okay.
not because they were sacked.
Yeah.
So what was it? You guys, you have to sit up, reevaluate yourself. They didn't say they were going to reduce salaries. They didn't say. So we had to sit down by ourselves to think through it. And it goes back to where we started this conversation from. He surrounded himself with, suppose, the best of the best, right?
Of course.
So if you are the best of the best, what do you want? Are you going to let him down? You don't want to let him down.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you get what I'm saying. It's when somebody has taught you so well, you don't want to be caught with your hands in the till. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. And that was, for me, that was one of his strategy. He might not have been doing it directly, but he had formulated all of us to think like, this thing, kini yole baje. Sorry, excuse my French if I'm not supposed to speak.
Of course.
But you get, but kini yole baje, not in my time. I think we all struggled for that it was not. So if you had to go and be looking for clients by yourself, you look for clients. People in creative were bringing clients, just that. And these were not even people that were BB facing. But it's something that a culture, I stick
down.
exactly. And I'm sure that over the years, regardless of where or who you think that you are, somehow that will stick with you. And when you think about him, this thing got me thinking. Every time I think about him now, I just smile. I might not know what in particular I smile about, but I will just smile. You understand? And I mean, that's him.
Exciting. I mean, it's just great listening to you talk passionately about him. Okay, so he is a true leader, no doubt about it. And from my own point of view and the way I hear you speak, you cannot mention advertising and marketing without mentioning BB. So, what would you say are some of the impacts he has made in this industry?
First and foremost, that in advertising, sorry, it might seem like a fluff thing, but it's not. First and foremost, that in advertising, people are looked at with so much dignity and respect is born out of them ensuring that, I said it earlier as well. I think at the beginning of Insight, they actually had, I'm not sure if they bought them the cars or they took loans to ensure that everybody in client service had cars. They ensured that even if you were taking it as you could pay for it, you looked good. And I think that's stuck with, I mean, you see a lot of, today, Experiential wants to take that away from us, because I knew there was a time, I still have some somewhere. There was a time I gave it out to my mom's church. I know I still have like a suitcase full of somewhere. Then, regardless of whether or not we're in Experiential or whatever, you're all going for meetings, you're all very well decked up and all of that, you know. But now, yes, Gen Z culture is so we're all techie. So yeah, we try to scale it down a bit. But you find out that the people in core advertising haven't scaled it down as much as us. So with that, I think he brought that appearance, I don't know what to call it now, that respect, that dignity, that you see an advertising person and you're like, and first of all, before you even say anything, you say, I want insights. I don't know if you get. So I think for me, he brought that one. And then today, I said earlier as well that I don't think there is anyone that is in this industry today that hasn't gone through him. Maybe the younger people. But even if we talk about the younger people, except probably you're coming from school direct. And if you come from school direct, if anybody that has worked with me that is a younger person talks about advertising, by the time they will talk, they will say their madam worked with BB.
Of course.
You understand?
Absolutely.
So I know that there was a time they didn't like being called the University of Advertising, but you can't take it from them because that's technically what it was. Because it seemed like they trained and they're trained. And the training part is why I expressly used the fact I had to go to SA 3 to 6 months. I can't remember.
Just for training.
Yes. So because we expect excellence off of you guys, and we are going to get excellence. I remember that this same GUS advert was, I don't know how many millions was spent there when people went again to the UK, because the idea was of that ship and all of that. It was a lot of work and it was well done. And it's still an advert that you will refer to today. Working with Glow, the same thing. So it's something that it's a culture. And yes, so for me, I don't know what the earlier people will say or the older people that are older now, but I think based on what I've seen, he brought in that respect into that. He made it a career for you to be proud of. He made you something that you wanted to be seen with your shoulders high. And, work with Insight. I mean, advertising and that kind of thing.
That's phenomenal. So, what are some of his other legacies that you can speak to?
Isn't that a lot?
Just a few.
The same thing. It still goes back to that. I don't know. All these things were all there before him. But at the end of the day, it still goes back to that. So this AN that you've talked about, even us as experiential, I would quickly attribute it to them. Why? Because when it all started, it's all so that we could all come under the governance of Archon, so to say. And Archon were all by them too. Why? Because advertisers needed a voice, so to say. We needed, as practitioners, we needed to have some form of a council that would bring all of us together and that would present our issues. So at the end of it, it still goes back to that legacy, because that's his legacy. When you're talking about the media, everybody is going into media buying, and who are the people that actually stood and said that we're going to have media buying outfits? The first media buying agency that pulled out was from them, if I remember correctly, from agency. I think it was from the Troika Group. So now everybody's having media buying agencies. It happened first, I think, within the Troika Group, when I think it was Optimum Exposures or something, when they took them out of Insight and started Optimum Exposures. Why? Because there were opportunities there. And they were actually the first set of people who were at the forefront of when Nigeria said local content. It was Optimum, because then they were bringing all this telenovelas and all of that. Yeah. And then, it was like, let's do local content, and then they had to now start to recruit all of that. So, yeah. See,
a leader. He is a leader, yes, through and through.
And it's not, when you're doing that definition, do the definition correctly of a leader who, as well as is leading, is also serving and is also giving back. You get, so that's
absolutely phenomenal. So, as we wrap up, in 3 words, how would you describe him, BB? Just 3 words.
Inspiring. So 3 words: inspiring, phenomenal, and the bestest ever.
Bestest
ever. So use that as 1 word.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you so much, Mrs. Tolu. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us, and we've been able to learn more about BB through your own experiences that you've had, all through your journey and your career. Thank you so much.
Like I said, and I say it again, for BB, I'll do it. And then he would be like, "Where have you been?" Be like, "I'm around, sir. I see you." So every time I see him, I always go out to meet, because I know he abuse me. So abuse me jejely in front of everybody. And
it's good you are saying this.
Yeah, I know.
And on this note,
yes, I probably said
we would like you to give him a shout out as we wrap up as well.
So,
his birthday, 80th birthday.
BB. Why are you making us call him BB?
Whatever makes you comfortable.
So dearest BB, this is me wishing you the very, very, very best of today and always. I do hope that you have a wonderful 80th. And like you always said, I know you're actually doing it. You're saying to yourself, I'm not going to work myself to death. I want a situation where I'm on my ship or on my boat somewhere where I'm making a lot of money. And I hope you're on that boat today. If you're not on that boat, anyways, I know you had been there. I know you've had fun. I know you're having fun. I want you to have your 80th birthday in the best of spirits. I love you. You know that. I say that to you once in a while. I don't see you often, but you know I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you, and I love you once more. Thank you. It's Iyawoibo on behalf of the clan.
Thank you, Mrs. Tolulope. Okay, on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you've been inspired by this story, please follow us, subscribe to our channel, and yes, stay glued. We have a lot more amazing content, to bring your way. Thank you so much. I remain your host, Oluwatosin Ojebisi.